In our final segment, the Electoral Commission on Friday announced that the 2023 general elections would be based on proportional representation system. The Chief Electoral Commissioner, Mohamed Kone, who made the announcement acting over the directive of President Julius Maada Bio in accordance with the amendment of the 1991 Constitution, Section 38A, said they've been doing boundary delimitation plans, but the fact that the August 10 riot has prevented or disrupted the electoral calendar, it is now prudent to go with the proportional representation system. So to discuss all of these things in the studio, we have Honorable Abdul Kargbo, who is the head of secretariat of the opposition 21-man committee, in-scheme governance transition committee. Honorable, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. AYV, good morning, Samuel.
All right, we shall be joined in the studio by Honorable Gavao of the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. But just quickly before we come to Honorable Abdul Kargbo, let's go back to the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone and take a look at what the Chief Electoral Commissioner presented to the people of Sierra Leone in a press conference as to reasons why Sierra Leone should go with the proportional representation system in the 2023 general elections.
In accordance with Section 38A of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, 1991, Act number 6 of 1991, as amended in 2001, referencing subsection 3 of section 38 of the PREP of section 38. The President may, after consultation with the Electoral Commission, direct that such election shall be conducted on the basis of the existing districts in a manner to be known as district block representation instead of constituencies. On 19th October 2022, the Commission held a consultative meeting with His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio to update him on progress relating to the boundary delimitation exercise being undertaken by the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone. Subsequently, on the 20th October 2022, the Commission received a correspondence from His Excellency the President, in which the ECSR was directed to use the district's block and proportional representation PR system for the conduct of the June 24th, 2023 multi-tier elections. Within this context, the Commission hereby informs the public and key stakeholders that the 2023 multi-tier elections will be conducted using the PR system, and that the boundary delimitation exercise, which had commenced, is halted with immediate effect. This is to facilitate effective planning on matters relating to procedures, rules, and regulations on the proportional representation system. The Commission remains committed and compliant with legal mandates and guiding principles, and we keep the public and key stakeholders fully informed and engaged on this trend. Thank you. End of press statement. At the meeting with His Excellency the President, including others, and on the 19th of October 2022, you, that is the Commission, provided an update on the impracticality of delimiting constituencies in time for the 24 June 2023 general elections of ordinary members of Parliament. Advised that as a consequence of one above, the 24 June 2023 general elections was impracticable to hold using constituencies. and advised that on the basis of 1 and 2 above, the 24 June 2023 elections of ordinary members of parliament be conducted on the basis of the secondary electoral system, namely the district block proportional representation system. As a consequence of the above, His Excellency the President, by the powers vested in him by Section 38A of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, Act 2001, has directed that the 24 June general elections of members of parliament be conducted using the district proportional representation. You are kindly advised to give effect to this presidential directive. Signed, Secretary to President. We are at this point in discussion as a commission to clearly identify which data. But if you refer to the provision under Section 38A, it says the district, the number of seats can be determined and approved by Parliament. So who determines that? It's something we are looking at it very keenly, and we are going to have consultative meetings with Parliament, with political parties. However, for the purposes of the boundary delimitation, which we started, and the reason we started was because the existing boundaries of constituencies expired on February 2022. And with the emergence, with the provision of the statistic data, we had already planned, we have already used that census data to determine the number of seats. So if we are going to carry out the boundary delimitation, surely we are going to use the midterm census. But as it is, since we are now using the district block system, which has different indication under the provision of Section 38A, then we need to have a discussion with political parties, the civil society organization, and other stakeholders to determine the number of allocated seats to districts. Because the last time the system was used, we had a fair spread of representation of constituencies across the country by district. So we are reviewing the process. We will come back to the public and inform them after having consultative meetings with all stakeholders, including political parties.
All right, welcome back. We've been joined in the studio by Honorable Indolo Gavao of the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. Honorable, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Samuel. Good morning, viewers.
Right, we've just listened to the Chief Electoral Commissioner there, giving us reasons and, of course, going through the correspondence from the presidency directing the commission to conduct the general elections of 2023 by proportional representation using the district block system. Honorable Abdul Kargbo, your party has put out a statement condemning the decision, but also claiming that it's a gross violation of the Constitution. How so? Let's talk about the legality of the implementation.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Firstly, I want everybody to note that what is compulsory in the Constitution is the review of the Constitution, of the constituencies, you know, and that should happen between 5 to 7 years. You review the constituency.
Right.
And for you to do delimitation or to alter the constituency is not compulsory. It's not compulsory. And that will come after the review. It may happen after the 7 years because the review is what, let me just read the specific clause in the Constitution. Section 38. It says the Electoral Commission shall review the division of Sierra Leone into constituencies at intervals of not less than 5 years and not more than 7 years. That is for the review. And may, I underline the word may, and may alter the constituencies in accordance with the provision of this section to such extent as it may consider desirable in the light of the review. So meaning, you do review is shall, is preceded by shall. So reviewing the constituency is compulsory. You do that between 5 not less than 5 years, and not more than 7 years.
Right.
But after you have reviewed the constituency, you may even decide not to alter the constituencies. And that is what happened in 2012. Remember, the constituencies they used in the 2007 election is the same constituency they used in the 2012 election. They were reviewed, but they were not altered because it was not necessary for them to be altered. And you cannot say, because I listened the Chief Electoral Commissioner when he said the existing constituencies have expired. Again, let me read another clause in the Constitution that shows when the constituencies, he said, let me go to 38(5). It says, where boundaries of constituencies are altered in accordance with the provision of this section, the alteration shall come into effect upon the next dissolution of Parliament after the alteration has been approved by Parliament. So now, if there are alterations and Parliament have approved those alterations, they don't come into effect immediately. They come into effect only after the dissolution of Parliament. I will tell you why.
Have you approved, you the members of Parliament, have you approved?
No alteration was taken to Parliament in the first place. No alteration was taken to Parliament in the first place.
I want you to
no
respond
boundary
to this.
delimitation.
I want you to respond to this just quickly. Listen to this. It's saying, Samuel, the constituencies have expired when Parliament allows the boundary delimitation statutory instrument matured into law, having met the provision of subsection 7 of section 170. By that instrument, it nullifies the constituency and subsection 5 of section 38, and it's only awaiting the dissolution of Parliament. Secondly, the 7 years expiration, if you go by it, it will mean after 2023 elections, by 2025, new boundaries should be delimited when the 6th Parliament will have 3 years in their term. Let it be known that all parties allowed the boundary delimitation instrument turned into law and nullified the existing boundaries and fulfill subsection 4 of section 38. The alteration has been approved by the statutory instrument.
Again, that is misinformative. If the current constituencies have been dissolved or have expired, why do we have to use them in Parliament? Which constituency am I representing in Parliament? I'm currently a member of Parliament, sitting as the member of Parliament representing 077. How could I represent an expired constituency? Common reasoning, that doesn't make sense. That is why the provision in the Constitution is very clear. Even when the alterations have been made, they only come into effect after the dissolution of the Parliament. And let me tell you why. You can never have two sets of valid constituencies at the same time. There is only going to be one. And let me tell you why the essence of them coming into effect. Even when we make law in Parliament, those laws don't immediately come into effect. Like, for example, when we are dealing with the Sexual Offences Act, you know, and we changed the section 16 for penetration to life imprisonment. When Parliament approved it, it does not immediately come into effect. It has to be assented by the President. That is the only time when it will come into effect.
Yeah.
So Parliament approving law does not automatically make that law come into effect. And similarly, when Parliament approve the alteration, they do not come into effect immediately. They wait until the dissolution of the current Parliament. And let me tell you, even the 5 years for the review, not for the alteration, no, the 5 years for the review, we have not even reached the 5 years. Because these alterations, the previous alterations were done in February 2017. But they never came into effect. They were using the same old constituencies until when Parliament dissolved in December. That was when they came into effect. So you cannot have two sets of constituencies.
And the Electoral Commission is using the February period.
It is wrong. It is wrong. Because they never had, in fact, those constituencies never had come into effect. So they never had the right to have even mentioned February. Because February, after February, March, April, May, there were constituencies which were in existence. And those constituencies were used in Parliament. They were the recognized constituencies. They were the legitimate constituencies. They were the constituencies who had members of Parliament in Parliament representing them until that Parliament dissolved. Those new constituencies never came into effect. So they were just sitting there waiting for the valid constituencies to expire. And the only way a constituency can expire is not by doing delimitation. It's not by doing delimitation. It's by the dissolution of parliament. If you want, I will read it again.
So
the dissolution of parliament.
Hold that the decision is in contravention of the constitution.
The 5 years alone for the review. In fact, parliament dissolved in 2017 in December.
Not February.
Not February. In December, the alterations were done in February. But according to the law, they take effect at the dissolution of the parliament, and parliament dissolved in December. So meaning for December 2017, for them to even have the authority to do the review, they should wait for this December, not the alteration, the review.
As you say that, Honorable Indolo Gavao, the last time we had a conversation about this proportional representation and the existence of constituencies, you mentioned that, of course, constituencies have expired already, so there was a need, and the president had the power to go on with proportional representation. Where do you stand?
I stand on the side that there has been no constitutional violation, and I'm really taken aback that a whole institution that has a barrage of lawyers can put out a statement to say the action or the statement of the Chief Electoral Commissioner that will be going by district block system in the 2023 election is a violation or gross violation of the Constitution. You see, Samuel, I for one, I am a big admirer of this institution, AYV, but there is this thing that I have to say. Law is not Greek and Roman history. The Constitution is a specialized document. In fact, the interpretation of the Constitution is one of the core mandates of the highest court of the land. It tells you that it is not every court that can interpret it and get it right. It is when you have like ascended the highest pinnacle of your profession, say as a bencher, that's when you are endowed with the knowledge to interpret this Constitution. That's why they took it away from the High Court, the Appeal Court, and left it in the hands of the Supreme Court, if you look at Section 134 of the 1991 Constitution. When you want to interpret this Constitution, you just don't use common sense. You just don't use any type of law. You use canons of interpretations. You have rules of interpretations. That is what you use. I mean, to just come and sit using the literal meaning, and the text of a constitution and try to give meaning to it, honestly, I beg to differ.
But in that statement, Honorable, here's what the APC is saying. For the records, and I quote, for the records, we are aware that His Excellency the President may constitutionally or statutorily direct that elections be held in accordance with the provisions of Section 38A. So the APC is saying, yes, we're aware the president has the power to, direct the Electoral Commission to, in accordance with Section 38A. What the arguments the party is putting forward is the conditions that should necessitate the implementation of Section 38A have not presented themselves.
I mean, that's what I can't understand. Are they in the minds of the Chief Electoral Commissioner? There are certain activities, there are certain actions that lay in the purview of an individual. Who am I to say the Chief Electoral, the Commission, in the exercise of their duties, are not correct to say they cannot delimit constituencies, and hence we are to go by the district block system. If you look at Section 38A, it tells you anytime that a date for general elections of members of parliament is stated, it suggests that constituencies has to be established. That one, I can read it. It suggests that once the date
is stated, constituencies for that particular election for which the date has been stated has to be established. And if they cannot be established, you understand, if they are not established
before the pronouncement of the date or after the pronouncement?
After the pronouncement of the date. After the pronouncement of the date. Let me just read it out and let me pull it out. It says, where under any law for the time being in force, a date for a general elections of members of parliament has been appointed but constituencies have not been established, has been appointed, but constituencies have not been established, which says once date has been appointed, constituencies have to be established. Now, it goes further to say...
Just quickly on just the provision you've read, are you now saying that we have a fixed date for the election, June 24, 2023,
yes.
for the general elections,
yes.
and there are no constituencies at the moment?
Yes. The press release itself tells you constituencies were dissolved in February of 2022. That's what he just told you.
Right.
And once it was dissolved by a statutory instrument, then there is every need for constituencies to be established, particularly so when the date for general elections has been appointed. And if the Chief Electoral Commissioner comes back to say in their consultation,
gentlemen, please hold on. We're going on a quick break and we'll come right back.